Yep.
September monthly. So I pulled a few cards that is going to be pretty much for all of us. Maybe our messages, maybe our general reading for basically this transition. And it's kind of like really telling to me. It starts with Milky Way. It was the first card that came through it, and it kind of like really got me giggling because I am rewatching those series through the wormhole with Morgan Freeman. So if you haven't seen it, it's kind of like really interesting to really see how basically that physics interact with most likely even our spirituality, and how we are comprehending those, I mean, additional or alternate realities, right? Because as you know, Earth is the part of the Milky Way, but Milky Way has probably billions, you know, it is probably one of billions of galaxies that we actually know in the universes that we are absorbing, right? It has, I don't know, billions, probably 400 billion stars, and it is the one that is the closest to the sun. And it's kind of like interesting because they have managed to, everything that you see in the sky is basically past. You're not seeing the present because it takes time for the light to come and reflect. So everything that we see is not really what is going on in that moment. So it's kind of like a concept in itself that kind of like we need to kind of like wrap our head around. So this, it's kind of like really interesting for this month because we are going through basically Virgo transition and actually also Libra, so I can see actually both kind of like sending their own messages, right? So this is really telling us to regain our perspective. Maybe we strayed away, maybe we kind of like lost gravity, maybe certain people don't gravitate toward us or we don't gravitate toward them, right? It simply kind of like it is time to possibly step back and then allow ourselves to detach in order to kind of like gather information, right? And it's kind of like going into that internal aspect of ourselves that kind of like observes life instead of life basically happen to us, right? It also is basically telling us to look at things from different point of view, from kind of like understanding that, hey, we are part of this big universe, right? We kind of need to kind of like understand not only where our position is, but also how everything can affect us and how maybe even the small emotion can affect the entire basically universe. So it's kind of like really interesting because the next time is dream time, and this is kind of like this beautiful story. And I know that the Australians are going to correct me because this is talking about the Aboriginals of Australia, right? And this is basically their place that exists before time. So it's just like when I saw these cards coming out, I was really giggling because this also talks about how basically Earth was formed, right? And they're talking about that they had this ancestral ancient ancestral, what is the word, spirits that kind of like remained in the kind of like very forms that was created, so including all these animals and hills and stars and all this kind of like other features that we kind of like see around us. It's basically kind of like basically continue to present today their gods, right? So this is really talking about our either individual but also I believe group spiritual template that kind of, in particularly in this card, talks about things that have been passing down from one generation to another. So we are talking about at least 60,000 years, although those aboriginals would say they existed since the beginning of time. So in one those traditions, right, there is this creation story that is involving this Daijiraidu, which I think it's pronounced, and correct me if I'm wrong, this kind of like hollow, right, log that kind of like emits kind of like woo, that kind of like droning sound when kind of like is being played. It's kind of like really nice. It's kind of like really gets you into this vibration, and you kind of like really start feeling that connection when you hear it. So, you know, kind of like it is again time to kind of like sink deeply and understand that sort of like you are that crossover between spirit and physical reality. So it's like a breathing, comes in and comes out. What are you letting in and what are you letting out? Maybe it's going to be kind of like some kind of realization, because this is very much like Hermit card. It talks about solitude. No, it doesn't talk about loneliness. It really talks about the quality that we need to have in order to kind of like understand that, you know, sometimes we need to pull things inside of us to understand, express our own creativity. Maybe something got stuck. Maybe there was like sort of like stalemate. Maybe for some reason certain things couldn't happen. Maybe they're not part of the big picture, right? Because it could be that you're talking about a person. This is this card called Loyal Heart. And it's kind of like really amazing to really see, because as you know, Libras are always kind of like thinking in those terms, right? That, you know, there is like this royalty. And what I really like about this card is like that these two owls are actually looking in each other's eyes. So there is like this big heart, and there is like this big understanding between the two of them. This kind of like I really feel was more or less talking about us personally needing to reconnect. Maybe we got disconnected. We need to reconnect and understand how our actions are affecting other people. That also, even on the lonely island, the tree is going to grow and be magnificent, and nothing is going to stop, not even a storm, because the light always can be found, right? Maybe we need to find Loyal Heart. Maybe that is what is happening, because I really think this is really addressing the later part of the month, but that's maybe some kind of like self-understanding that we need to kind of like come to. Maybe this is really talking about our partnerships and friendships and romantic relationships, right? Maybe they have some qualities in common. It is really good to kind of like see this, because part of this reflection is going to be, this is the mirror of me, right? So this is really talking about also us being dedicated and devoted back to our friends, to kind of like express that faithfulness. And I really think it's going to really be all around, kind of like understanding that maybe we pushed too far or we didn't do enough, and kind of like coming into this balance. It is kind of like really, really interesting, because this is telling me that your kind of like long-term loyalty to your goals is going to become kind of like very evident in this world of conditions where, you know, all our aspirations for success kind of like sometimes assume form kind of like in reality, but success is nonetheless looks like taking shape, and it was inside job over here. From what I see, we kind of like really need to kind of like in all this kind of like process stay flexible, because if we are inflexible, what do you expect to come out of that process? We kind of like have to kind of like come to this kind of like bigger perspective that is basically talking about here. So I really would not advise any kind of like stubbornness of any kind. Now, interestingly enough, that we did get here Thunderbolt and the Outsider. None of them is a good card. So it is really telling me this is that basically Tower card. But here, as you can see, lots of people are jumping off instead of from Tower, from here. This is really telling me about ego death. It is really telling me that we need to shed some aspects of ourselves that maybe we were like really holding on for such a long time. Maybe we kind of like felt as an outsider. We could always maybe meet people who would always keep us, you know, some kind of like foot away, or kind of like it was always a distance that we couldn't somehow overcome, even if we tried it. The truth is, like, this came reversed. So this is telling me that maybe something is happening, that we are even clueless about something, because we all build our own egos, we all build our own life. It's basically all this house of cards. It's like all that ego stuff, where especially we are getting really like more and more kind of like divided with choices, and we don't have any more universal news and universal things, and we keep looking for things that will reinforce our basically already viewpoint. And this is really telling me that this is something that you are needing to really deal with. Maybe this month you want to kind of try to just to listen to something different, attend to classes that otherwise you wouldn't attend, kind of like really talk to people who are much different. Because look at this card. Hello, hello, who came to say hi to everybody? Say hi, say hi here to camera, that's it, pretty girl, walk up. So this is kind of interesting, because some people don't like when my kitty cat Sapphire comes over here, and you know, this divining, it's all about observation and it's intuition. Intuition usually kicks in and clues in when you are really observant of this perspective. And this perspective is like, this is what happened. Just like as I was saying, some friendships and some kind of like love relationships will become coming to you to acknowledge that. Just like Safi jumped in, said hi, and I love you. And I really think this is like something we can really look forward. I think there are some conditions though, and these conditions would be few things that we really need to figure out. Also, maybe what obstacles we have created, and if this is a really big deal, or how to really kind of like get off that high horse, how important we are, because we live in really strange times, right? And this card, as I was just about to say, look at us through this fence, how beautiful these colors are. And of course, this little child looking inadequate, it's kind of like looking what is out there. I really, really want to be there, and what's going on. Maybe the child is in the garden and looking out, but maybe looking into something else. Now, I think the key in this picture is this basically chain. And look at this chain. It is opened. It doesn't take much to really take away this chain. So now these two cards together, what do you chain yourself to it? What kind of beliefs are you holding that maybe need to be released? You have to figure out if something that you were really holding as really important, this is who I am, without this I cannot live. Try to shed all these kind of like core principles to a minimum, and you will see how, you know, you're going to really be able to embrace more people as well as to be embraced. So this is kind of like a general part of the reading, and now we are going to go in the individual signs. Guys, I still have the speed up promotion. Still, if you order your own reading, you will get it much shorter. So instead of 3 weeks, you're getting in a week for the regular one. Instead of 1 week for a rush one, you're going to get it in 3 days. And urgent, it used to be 3 days, now it's like 24 hours. So kind of like make your pick, and you can check it via my website, cattarot.ca. And guys, let's not forget that there is a contest going on where you can win a 15-minute reading with me. Part of it is like leaving comments over here on Facebook or on Instagram, and that's going to be one winner a month that I'm going to pull from basically all of these guys. But there's going to be a much maybe faster way if you come to my live, which is every Saturday at 11 o'clock EST. You need to comment so we know that you're there. Just say hi, and you know, some of the moderators are going to kind of like make the pick. They can call it any time. You have to be present in order to get the award, and you get this like 15 minutes with me, and from that point you will just need to contact me and you're all set. And of course, nothing beats private reading. This is just your energy and me, and we are really looking down and trying to find not only what's up, but also what is the best way out of it. And this is it. Let's start with this month's Taroscopes. Hello Geminis, and welcome to your September monthly. So just so you know, this is again general reading. Make sure you check your ascendant and you check your moon sign. In the description you will be able to see the link to actually get your free natal charts, to check it out. So that way you can actually pull more kind of like these puzzles together and get a bigger picture. Of course, again, as I said, private reading is usually the way to go. It's kind of interesting because the more you do this, the more you get this like intuitive, let's call them abilities, open. So the bottom of your deck was deception, but something possessed me to look what is underneath there, and it was past life relationship, just like the Judgment card over here. So I really think that you're clearing certain things from the past. And you know, like sometimes we kind of like keep meeting new people and they seem to be nice and wonderful, but they keep ending up manifesting the same problems that we had all along the way with maybe other partners, and we promised ourselves, no, we will never deal with that. We will never do this again. And yet, somehow, somebody infiltrated our life that way. Your card was the one that came out first. This is basically the Mercury card, the Magician. And it came reversed. It is really talking about somebody having ulterior motives in the situation. Something that you're dealing. Maybe somebody is leading you on, because you have this deception card here, and deception is like about masks. It's about, you know, not really presenting yourself in a way you should. Especially look at this person over here, kind of like almost as if, don't touch me. It's like what Safi does it to me. It's kind of like, it's the body language that is really, really important to kind of like really assess in this situation. So do not listen to the words. Do not listen to somebody's big plans. More or less look at their actions. Like, look, we are having here one, like it's almost the beginning of the major arcana, now 20, almost the end. So we're only going from 0 to 21. So there is like a really lot that is going on this month. And you, of course, are not going through this entire process. This karmic process going from 0 to basically 21 takes centuries, because we live many past lives. And like you getting this kind of like double down card, past life relationship, is really telling me that in this life, and by the way, check my karma reading, like you actually can figure it out what you wrote for yourself to do in this life. So this kind of like card talks about, hey, we are finally getting this ability to get this clarity, to kind of like clean the slate, to kind of accomplish our karma. These are maybe final stages. So what basically this means, pragmatically, that means, let's say you are kind of dating somebody, and maybe this person is telling you, look, you know, whether they want to move forward or not move forward, it doesn't matter. But let's say you kind of like run into some kind of like glitch with them, and that's when that conversation kind of takes place. So this is kind of talking about, let's discuss all the issues that matter, because once when we discuss it, like we turn every stone and we know we are moving forward or not moving forward, but at least we know where we are. This is kind of like one of those cards, cleaning that things out. Just like think about the soul spring cleaning sort of a thing. Now there is like something promising. There is like some kind of passion over here. Maybe you're blinded by passion and you're not really seeing somebody's intention. But this also warns me, because you might be dealing with another Gemini, or it's kind of telling me be cautious. You know, like you're like a very smart sign. Hello, air sign. We are kind of like very smart, but sometimes we come up and warp ourselves into kind of like trying to find solutions, and we end up maybe doing the bad thing. This is definitely calling this month for you to kind of like really speak up your true intentions, and also to kind of like watch intentions of the other people. So let's start. Children. Worth waiting for, make the effort, new love, codependency, retreat, playfulness, express your love, stay optimistic about your love life, and keep an open mind. Let's leave these two cards over here, as well as this one. So I'll be telling you my little kitty cards. Let me get to it. So yes, guys, you may have been dealing with, I don't know, possibly fire sign, possibly with somebody who maybe was kind of like very much into you at one point, but kind of like maybe decided to, oh well, you know, I got tired or bored. Like all kings, when they reverse, seem to have that flavor of manipulation. So each king manipulates in a different way. This one maybe was doing that hard, like what do you call it, court press with you, where you were like so important, and they all of a sudden they disappear. Like, you know, what's they teach them in this seduction guides, and you really need to read this like crappy stuff in order to understand what people are willing to put in their head, right? So they're called seduction artists or something like that, and it's really, really creepy. And most of the principle is basically taking advantage of this entire enormous marketing situation that we have in our society, that everything is a packaging. Of course, you are going on, you're going basically on Facebook, your life is so perfect, oh my gosh, your meal is so important that it has to be shared with everybody, right? Don't even get me going on that. So I was like watching a really political show recently, I think even as recent as last week or in the last 2 weeks, and I think it was Bill Maher, and he was like really saying the same thing I usually say when I see this card. He's like talking about, you see, these masks are basically in psychology talking about masks we all wear. We have to wear them in order to communicate with other people, and we are trying to better ourselves. But unfortunately, because of these masks, people never know who we are. That's why sometimes you're shocked, oh my gosh, so and so did what? And when the mask goes off. And that's also when we are dating, like you cannot even consider that you know a person until, I don't know, 6 months minimum, if not a year. And that's when the cracks are starting to show. And that's where we kind of like figured out what really reason is for them to be in our life. So Bill Maher said that he called it avatars, and that's also a good description. That we just go around, and even though I got myself this new Samsung phone, and it kind of like it can create the little kind of like icon of you, and it says everything. It's like, what the hell? Can't I not record myself? I have to have like animation of me. And it's kind of like felt really, really weird, because like everything is like perception. Hey, look at me, I'm smiling, I'm saying okay, I'm this and this. Like this is exactly how we go wrong. This is exactly how this person knows that people are being triggered with certain things. You know, like, I mean, how you can pull a big con. You kind of like buy yourself a Rolex watch or replica and put yourself together properly so you look successful. And people don't really question you as much as they will question you if you come as a beggar. So that's kind of like those tricks of the trade that like King of Wands really know. It's kind of like their life is like so amazing. They're so busy. And you're like sitting around thinking like, what about me? But at the same time, maybe you're tolerating because you're thinking, well, somebody else's life is more. It's kind of like, oh, look at it, the codependency again. We had it twice. So this is like really kind of like strong and loud message. And I can see it here, guys. There's something with this person, like I'm clearly getting energy of manipulation. But it went 2 ways. Maybe they're manipulating you. Maybe they were manipulating you, and you said, really? I'll show you manipulation. And right, you're Geminis, like you're like usually mirroring like these 2 faces in your sign. So you want to do that? Let me show you how that's done. But you kind of like initially maybe do that to just like, I mean, teach them a lesson, but then it just becomes interesting, right? Because like here I'm clearly seeing that kind of like maybe you're also understanding that it's just like futile. And when you get this codependency card, it either means that you're involved with somebody who has more issues than one, let's put it that way. Maybe drugs, maybe alcohol, maybe they're not calling, maybe they have somebody else on the side, maybe they're cheating. I'm seeing here cheating and juggling and the other people. The codependency is the card that talks about needing to kind of like cut these chains, cut these cords. And this kitty can become a kitty and not to pretend to be a dog. And this one, you're not a rabbit, dude, you're a cat. Just, yeah, you're cute as you are. You're just like one of these creatures that don't need to do anything to be cute. Unlike us, you know, that takes some kind of like time to kind of like get dressed and look pretty. So, yeah, I think it was something that was ill-fated. The Five of Swords is like talking about, yeah, look at this, like two people here walking away and somebody's feeling like so self-important. It was simply a situation that was karmic, guys. It was like not possible to resolve the situation easily. It could have been lots of jealousy in the situation, as I see, kind of like, look at this, but waiting for, but like, I mean, why am I waiting for you? Like, it was like big question mark that you kind of like ask yourself all the time. Kind of like, do I really need to make more effort toward this person? Like, look, did any card come upright? Just one, walking away. All of them are reversed. It's just like somebody was like really wrecking your life. The Moon card is like, look, just like here, not a good card. Here is like almost like trappings, and trappings of addiction, trappings of kind of like not being able to find a way out. Where here, the way out is really clear. Look at that. But why are we then barking to the moon? Like, why are we distracted, right? We are distracted with structures we have built. We are like so impressed about our lives. We are like so important, and like this is almost like the battle of ego that I see here. Remember this, like, I mean, a card that came in the introduction reading, the perspective. This kind of like was really, really important. And I think for you, it's kind of like really hard, because you're kind of like starting to get clarity. You have both moon and the sun. So the moon reversed is not a bad card, and the sun reversed is like actually just a lesser of basically this card. Still very positive. Like these two, meaning like these two faces that you have in your sign, like are now looking at each other, right? You're kind of like getting it. Look at this, like Three of Wands reversed and Ten of Swords. Something really, really felt bad. Like this is the ending of some sign. Like, no, you're not making an effort. And the reason you're not making an effort, or you cannot make the effort, is because somebody else doesn't want to make that effort themselves. It's clearly saying that for those of you who are involved with somebody that is highly codependent relationship, guys, check my other channel, Goals Realized Coaching. I actually did cover that really nicely. There are two types of codependence, and some of them can be kind of like dealt with just like simply understanding of yourself. The others really need coaching and therapy to go through it, because it's like puts its deep hooks and this kind of like chains on you, and you need to escape this jail, and it's like hard not knowing which door to open. This like clearly talks about something can be fulfilled because you are looking for love in the wrong places, right? Look at this, Four of Wands. You really, oh my gosh, this is like so actually sad. Look, you want everything from the person who actually cannot give it to you. Look at this, 10, 14, 15. It keeps coming back. Kind of like you're dealing with people who initially gives you this big splash of everything will happen, we will shack up, we will live together, we will live happily after, and then you keep feeling that carrot on the stick all along the way and following it and feeling frustrated, all while there are like issues. Maybe you have children. Maybe this children card just simply talks about that inner child inside of you that you need to satisfy, that this is like telling you, like, this is kind of like definitely like a bridge over troubled waters, kind of moving on. And it's kind of like maybe moving on with this kind of like big eyes and fear and anticipation. But look at that inner child that kind of like came over here. It's kind of like you're doing something for being better, for kind of like creating something better out of your life. Knight of Chalices. I think you're getting really disillusioned in this entire situation. Maybe you have children and you're feeling this entire situation is like really very bad for your children. Maybe they're arguments, because Ten of Swords, as I said, it's not a worst card to get. But Ten of Swords is really talking about the worst is over, but still that you did allow 10 deep swords to go in it. And here in Nine of Swords is like really talking about anxiety of the situation, where we keep still going. We are kind of like completely ignoring red flags and everything keeps coming our way, and we are still kind of like trying to get out of the situation, but we are blocked anywhere we go. And that's when we kind of like we are very susceptible to hear sweet things. So what is your language of love? Do you need to hear things? So great. But what if you hear it and the person doesn't do what they say they would? If they tell you they love you, but then they go with another person, don't you see a conflict between these two statements? I think that's simply what basically this is really talking about. That you are still, this is like the codependency. You kind of want to hear it. You want that love, or you remember that very beginning when everything was great. Hello, codependence, and that attitude attracts narcissists, attracts people who have no self-reflection, who always think they are the best, and you are just like there somehow to serve a purpose in their life, and they're like putting themselves on the throne. This is really good. This is like your brainy kind of like part of you kicking in, that enough is enough kind of a thing. And this kind of like is this nightmarish kind of like, as the French call it, cauchemar, the same word in Croatian, cauchemar, for kind of like this understanding, like, look, I gotta get out of that stuff, right? Worth waiting for. What are you waiting for? Are you waiting for, this is 15 event as well, I'm just noticing this. What are you waiting for? Like, somebody is being dropped, or you are dropping somebody. There is like this sense of somebody being really harsh, and this could be you guys, King of Swords as well. It's definitely kind of like that air flavor. But there is like this aha moment. I just finished Taurus and they had that aha moment as well. It's kind of like coming at the end of a road. It's understanding that you need to give yourself that space. And it's also understanding of a different kind. With codependency, it's not only that they are doing that, right? And just like bad. But it takes two to tango, guys. And that's why it's so hard to heal. With codependency, you have your own interest in it. Whether that interest is like, I want to return everything the way it was, or it's going to get better, or, you know, like, I cannot do better, or you are the giving person and they just like gladly take, because that's how it works as well. So this is kind of understanding that you need to pull yourself from that thing and see if this is even good for you, and if this is good for your children, like, because then you have a much greater understanding to do that. And that's kind of like that perspective. In that perspective, you have to find your own place under that sun, your own place where, in spite of like maybe something that looks naked and deserted and neglected, you can still thrive and be beautiful and be nurtured, and not to kind of like feel anymore kind of like stuck and always kind of like being the outsider, always, you know, somebody kind of like coming and, oh, no, I cannot meet you this weekend, or, yeah, sorry, I didn't call you last night, I was busy, please give me a break. Kind of like, it is the time for you to kind of understand that your loyalty kind of like is like two-way street. Loyalty kind of goes toward other people who only can be loyal toward you. Like, getting all of that reversed. But also getting the Judgment card means that you are kind of like cleaning the slate. This Deception card is crucial as well. Yes, people deceive us, but sometimes we are deceptive without even realizing that we are. This means we need to take this mask off and actually tell people and show people who we really are earlier in the relationship, and also kind of like demand that we find it out from them, and not that you kind of like find it years later when it's like so late and so hard to kind of like break this entire concept. These are your emotions. It's kind of like you're far from being playful. Two of Swords, walking this tightrope, blindfolded, it's hard. And here it's kind of like feeling that no decision is a good decision, kind of a thing. And look, you have the World reversed, and you have the Knave of Wands. Something is still playing. This World card is like not a good card when it's reversed. Like inside of your soul, you're not completely clear that something is finished. That is definitely that addictive kind of like substance that codependency can have. Like, you know, some people crave booze or drugs or nicotine. Other people crave a relationship or that person, because most people don't understand that, you know, breaking up with a person is not supposed to feel like, oh my god, oh my gosh, you know, I have no leg, I have no arm, like that you feel that amount. It's kind of like love is gentle, and you know, that's what they say, let it go. And most people can't. We are like thought to grasp to it, to kind of like fight for it. The truth is, what's the point of fighting for someone when you really don't even know who they are? Let them show you their real colors, because you guys are being told literally that this is what's going on. You're going through this kind of like big exercise in trust, big exercise into kind of realization of things from the past. This is really positive, even though the rest of the cards are sort of like tinted negative, because there is this negative situation that is like bubbling up to the surface. You need to kind of like figure out yourself the best kind of like steps for moving forward for you, Gemini, would be. You had this like King of Wands reversed, and now it's like Queen of Wands reversed. The best would be to kind of understand this like kind of soft aspects of yourself. Sort of like, you know, we become jaded. Like, you know, the person gets cheated on, then they cheat on somebody else, and this chain continues. You have this ability to break these chains, and this is kind of like literally coming to the surface. I remember, this is a year number 11, and this is month number 11. And so we are going through something really crucial. September. This September is going to be really, really important, because you have to figure out who deserves your loyalty. They're like owls. They're smart. They're like, they don't show like this kind of like doves or anything like that. Owls. They're also very dangerous. So, you know, you are like formidable enemy. And instead of like kind of like magnetizing yourself with that energy, because then you just became that way out of being defensive, right? Why not to just like realize, okay, I need some space from me. I just really, everybody leave me alone. Everybody just get away. Because you really need to learn this lesson. This is kind of telling me some of you will kind of like fail to learn this lesson. So look at here, the Knight of Pentacles and Eight of Cups. Okay, so this can mean two things. This can mean that certain things are just like not going forward, and you keep regurgitating, and I can see that from this like World card here as well. The same things over and over. This is like that Nine of Swords as well. It's kind of like really, really important to address that, because otherwise you're getting stuck. You might actually hear, somebody might actually understand that you're like sort of on your way out. It's kind of interesting that you're getting express your love here, but the Sun is reversed. You see, the Sun reversed really talks about the burnout, and I can see this burnout, but the burnout is like still, you're still functioning with having your goal in mind. How about, instead of the goal in mind, I need this person so-and-so, or I need that so-and-so, you have instead, I want to experience loving energy. And that way you see if people around you are actually able to reciprocate that. That's kind of like a better value than being focused on a person. Yeah, because look at that. Three of Swords. It looks like no matter what you do, you kind of like looks like want this person to be there, to be committed, to be solid. But this person might be belonging to someone else. This could be card of rejection. This could be card of three-way relationship, that there is like somebody else who is married, because this card also can talk about marriage. So you need to kind of like ask yourself about karmic issue about that. And this is not to judge. Ending up in a third three-way situation is actually very easy. You kind of like get hooked on somebody, because you see here, like you get hooked on somebody, you fall in love, they're making all these promises, but they're just playing a game. The next thing you know, you're so deeply in love, and you're basing your love and your direction on their lies. So this person maybe said, oh my gosh, you know, yeah, I'm not getting sex at home, and this marriage that I'm in is just like functional, and yes, I'm actually getting divorced. The truth is, it was just a hook to hook you on, and you're like still thriving and struggling toward these promises. But the truth is, this person is truly actually not even thinking about it. That's what I'm talking about, this mask. If you're not seeing somebody frequently, and if you're not seeing somebody often that you can ask the same questions from different directions to see if you get the same answers back, you kind of like really don't know. And that's why I kind of like see this separation. Maybe something is just going to click, because I don't think you can trust somebody. Staying optimistic, yes, but also being very kind of you see, this the Fool card talks about being foolish. So sometimes optimism is foolish. I'm not saying be pessimistic, because that's foolish also, but how about realistic? And this realism is kind of like bringing you healing, kind of like not necessarily grounding energy. This is like a really energy of hope, the Star card and Queen of Cups. I think your emotions, just like as I said, you really need to go from the standpoint, I want love, I need love. What does that song? I want love, need love. Look at this, like we have 2 air and we have 1 water. So love for you being an air sign is a little bit more encompassing. It's kind of like higher for air signs, for example, than for water signs. The reason for that is like we need to process this through our head, that this is the right thing, where it's telling me that you are like actually in some kind of loop, because you have the deception card, you have the codependency card twice. You're looping in, you know, this infinite loop. You get stuck. There is like this infinite loop over here that we see, and it's like the gramophone. Remember this old gramophone being stuck on the same point? This is asking you to get unstuck and release. If this means turning, like getting rid of the gramophone, well, so be it. Because this is really telling me you're kind of like pulling in your emotions. You are healing your emotions. You are healing the situation that kind of like seemingly was kind of like really jumping off the cliff kind of a thing. Maybe you did jump off the cliff, sort of, so to speak, emotionally. But ultimately, from all these cards, this is the one that worries me the most. The Hangman reversed. Hangman is a really wonderful card. It really talks about kind of like understanding different perspective. But here, it really talks about feeling victimized. You see, just like here, feeling being left out, feeling not belonging. Why did it happen to me? You know, kind of like, you know what we say to kids, come on, dust off and keep going. These kids actually grow up to be very strong. You still hug them, you still kind of give them this love. It's not kind of like this harsh, you know, like this kind of like early 20th century kind of like British kind of like school system, or kind of like a whip, etc. No. So there is like this mix between, yes, it's nourishing energy, but also very kind of like solid energy. You need to find that strength inside of you, and strength of emotional resolve to kind of like give yourself the better future. And then things will start turning around. Knave of Pentacles, which is good, meaning like slow and steady. Maybe you need to get some kind of education on the subject of whatever is happening to you. Maybe check other people who basically spoke about the same things or had the issue. Maybe this is helping, because it is telling me, look, You're the winner here. You are the winner. You're like, you reach your goal, and do not allow others now to change your mind. This is like what is called gaslighting. You know what you want, you know what's going on, but other people say, no, no, you have no idea. You know what I personally hate? And I really hate it. That's a strong word, I know. When people say, you shouldn't feel this way. Well, hello, I just like feel this way. It would be just like a kind of saying, well, you shouldn't be white. It's like what it is. I can just like only work on it to get somewhere. So here is like something like this that I think has been happening to you. You have been kind of like pulled that wool over your eyes, and it's for many reasons, more reasons than one, hard for you to take this wool or this mask off. And you need to kind of like see what role you played, because it takes two to tango. And it doesn't matter how thin is that slice, still it has the two sides. So you have to figure it out, what tangled you up in this entire situation, and what basically would take for you to attract love, and not to be, whether this is naive or intrigued or too playful, to actually ended up being hooked on it. Give yourself some time to kind of like move in a new direction. Gemini, again, general reading. Remember, something creative is going to be really, really good this month. Getting in touch with soil, with ground, because everything is basically godly power. So this energy is not godly. You need to kind of like find your backbone. You need to kind of like figure out what is like that you want. And I think you want yourself, clearly. So I have one more card for you guys. And again, just a reminder, check your ascendant, check your moon sign or Mars sign if you're cross watching. And let's kind of like, yeah, private reading is of course the best. You got compass. I don't know which other sign got compass as well. I think Pisces. So that's kind of like really interesting. So let me read this for you. As long as you orient your compass to true north, the direction of your higher power, you'll never be lost. And this is your higher power. And this is your higher power. You're clearly needing to trust yourself and your instincts. And that's kind of like something that is challenged and has been challenged by someone, or you have learned this whole process kind of like in a kind of like really wrong way. So this is what it says. You're entering uncharted territories right now and can expect wonderful new experiences. To stay on the highest path of your destiny, you'll need to keep your compass pointed to true north. Only spirit or a higher power can serve this function. Money, property, prestige, romance, and other material achievements can help you find your true path. They're simply things you may experience along the journey. Know that spirit is working in your life, so even if you feel lost temporarily, as you can see, it will be easy to find your way. Have faith and trust, for your compass, with spirit as true north, will ensure that you'll never be lost, even on a starless night when all seems dark. So guys, this does seem dark, but that's why you had the sun. You need to focus on the light. You need to find a tear in this darkness and focus and trust yourself, because we are all born like out of love. Every mother loves a child. So I don't care what the circumstances were in the pregnancy, but that love is universal. We are all connected. So you can tap into that energy. It's just like that we separate from that energy through different machiations from the other people, from, you know, like our upbringing, like parents and other people put a whole bunch of stuff in our head. This is why it's asking you to kind of take some time for yourself, to kind of like figure out, to recharge yourself. It's almost like you're going to realize that you truly are not really in love with this person, because something was more of a control than anything else. And it was more or less that you were thriving to be with someone who actually does not exist. So getting this card means it is a time to clean the slate and give yourself another chance. See, this is 20 and this is 21. You need to turn things around here and move to the next phase of your karmic cycle. So my dear Gemini, I hope you're still here, that you're going to like it and share it. I love to hear your comments as well. It just seems to be a lot. You have been going through quite a bit, and maybe giving me suggestions how you're kind of like handling the situation. You're definitely going to get control of your emotions and heal. This is going to be a big month of healing. So I am there with you, sending you like really positive energy. Lastly, guys, if you never had a reading, or if you had a reading, Saturday live sessions are great to kind of like really give your energy in a reading, as well as now you have a chance to win your 15-minute reading with me. And if you cannot come at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Saturday, then just like come and join my Facebook, my Instagram, my other social media, because that way you can still kind of like qualify and win, and you're not kind of like being left out, because I don't want anybody to be an outsider. But your input is needed, and your true self is really called for this month. Love you, Gemini. Have a wonderful month. All the best.